Hey, Kevin here, and then my wife Anissa. We're on the same side of the camera this time for a change. And I thought I'd have a conversation, a little fireside chat, if you will, sans fire, about how anybody can afford to have their own small home, tiny home, whatever you want to call it. The title to the video here is Free Tiny Houses for Everyone, and I thought that would probably get somebody's attention, at least be curious to find out how that could be the case. And you know, the bottom line here is we need to be sensible about our housing, our you know, dwellings, whatever we're calling this, and if you do that, you can have your own home. And you know, this is very fluid and subjective in that what one person thinks is a suitable dwelling, another person may think is radical or you know, crazy, whatever. And I think that just, you know, depends on who you are and what your circumstances are and what you're willing to do in order to have a home without having to have, you know, a rent payment or a mortgage payment, or you know, have to pay for monthly to be in a home. And Anissa and I are, you know, in the process of building this house right now, and it's considerably smaller than the house we lived in for the last about, what, 20 years?
Yeah.
And that's a house that we built ourselves as well, and we raised 4 kids in it, and it was 3,000 square feet. And once the kids started growing up and moving out, we realized, you know, boy, if we could just cut this house down in half or even less than in half, it would really be a lot nicer for the two of us, and we would eliminate the cost of living in that regard. And so it took us a couple of years to kind of, you know, mull that over, wrap our minds around that, and how that, you know, new living situation would look. And of course we had to get the house ready to sell and sell it, and so we did. And then we moved it to this location where we're at now, which happens to be over 500 miles away from where we used to live. And we liked the area, and we discovered it, and we decided this is where we wanted to live. And so now we're building a much smaller home at 24 by 24 in the inside dimension here. The porch is a covered porch outside that's another 12 by 24. So interior space wise, we're 576 square feet. Overall, we're a little over 800 when you count the covered porch out there. Now, some people, you know, may say that's not a tiny house, that's just a small house or whatever. I don't really care. Again, this is all subjective, and one person may think this is ridiculously small, where another person may say, nope, this is way more than I need. So again, it's all based on perspective and personal opinion. So bottom line is, this is a sensible home for us, and that's the term I want to kind of keep putting out there. You know, we have frugal, we have minimal, we have simple living, we have you know, this tiny house movement going on, but I think the whole thing really boils down to what's sensible for you. And the terms like radical, and what was the other one I was talking about earlier, remember?
Radical and crazy.
Extreme. You know, this is that fringe terminology that people who are living in what is arguably a normal sized home or living a normal lifestyle think that people are living, you know, in different conditions, and you know, completely different from what they are, you know, crazy, out of the box, radical, whatever. I say, you know, baloney. I think that maybe the people that are living what we call normal lifestyle, with bigger houses and bigger mortgages, and you know, having to work 9 to 5, and you know, kind of the rat race, I would say that maybe is the extreme that everybody's just normalized. And I think it's to me, that's outrageous. So again, this is all subjective, but the bottom line is I think everybody's got within their means the ability to have their own home for, when I say free, I mean that there's not really an additional cost to you over what you're doing right now. I think what it boils down to is that you just need to reprioritize how you're spending your money and redirect some of that money in order to get where you want to go. And this is, just getting some different thinking for you, kind of creating a different perspective for you on this. But the bottom line is we were spending in excess of $20,000 a year maintaining and owning the home that we had before. And that was mortgage payment, that was insurance, taxes, utilities, the heating and cooling of the house. Those things all added up to 20-some, do you remember more? It was over about $22,000 a year to maintain. I mean, I think our power and gas bill on that house, which we had on a comfort level billing, so we were just taking the whole thing and averaging it out for the year, so we didn't have the highs and lows of summer and heating for the winter time. And we did live in a 4-season environment. Took it down to about $300 a month, which is a heck of a lot of money. Right now, I think our power bill is running us around $30, and our gas bill is probably 15. So $45 a month, basically year-round, versus $300. So a fraction of the cost. Our new current living situation has dropped us down to, if you want to make everything monthly, I think we're looking at probably going to be about $100 a month for property tax and the utilities. So, $150, let's say, just rounding up to live here. And without having all the high cost of renting or 30-year mortgages or anything like that. That gives you, that's our largest single cost of living is housing, is living somewhere. And so eliminating or greatly reducing that like we have has opened up a lot of possibilities for us to do other things. First of all, you could wind up with more money left over if your income level stays the same. Or secondly, if your alternative would be that you could work less because you don't have to work as much to maintain those monthly bills for cost of living. And so I think that's a big deal that everybody should really get a good hard look on. And so the bottom line is, in order to do the free tiny houses thinking, what it is redirecting the money you're already spending on housing and utilities and so forth, putting it into something that you can have of your own. And so
and I also think there's other monies as well besides what's being spent on housing and utilities. There's monies that are being spent to entertain yourself or even potentially console yourself because you are working Monday through Friday 9 to 5. You don't even, if you're lucky, 9 to 5. Some people work more than that. Some people work second jobs to meet the nut every month, and you don't even have any time to enjoy that house that you're paying for because it's so big and the mortgage is so big, and then you go out and spend money to fill it with things so you look good on the block, and you're not the one that doesn't have the nice furniture in the formal dining room that you only use at Christmas and Thanksgiving. And the only time you have there is the weekend when you're mowing the lawn, you're weeding, you're fixing the siding that got damaged in the winter, you're cleaning the gutters. The list is endless. And so, there's a lot of things that I think when you're living unsensibly, which I really like that term, and I'm not putting a size on what's unsensible. That's actually up to you and your the life that you want to live, how that looks for you daily, and how much money you have to spend cash and not have a mortgage. If that's 1,000 square feet, then that's what's sensible for you. I don't know what fits your lifestyle, but when you're not living sensibly, you are, I guess the term is maybe you're You're medicating yourself, if you will, by spending money to feel better or to console yourself, like I said. So that could be,
because you're miserable.
I know people that spend $150 a month on a cable bill, just cable. We don't have cable. Our cable is, we're a 3-minute walk to the beach every day. We sit out on our patio and watch the hummingbirds go all over my hanging fuchsia plants, things like that. They spend, ridiculous amounts of money on cell phone bills and, the newest, latest toys that are coming out and things like that, which they don't even hardly have any time to use. So I think it's important to mention that there's a lot, I would venture to say most have a lot of expendable income and funds that they could redirect and move into building or paying off their mortgage, whatever that is. I'm not saying they have to build their own house, but they could pay cash for a place.
Yeah, and so again, back to, I guess this is where budget meets sensible is where we're at on this. And so, we're building this house for around $30,000. That's just the structure itself. Again, I'm not going to get into, the land cost, because that's very, that's neither here nor there. Your cost of land could be higher or lower than what I spent. I bought a parcel that I was happy with. You don't need one as big as I've got or we have, and you don't have to spend as much on it. Or you could spend more. It depends on what you want to do.
I think it's important to point out, we're going to be at around 30, maybe just over 30 by the time we're done with the house. However, we could have spent more if we had wanted different finishes or different things in the house. We also could have spent a lot less. So we chose some fancier things, like our shower's a big deal. There's a few other things that we chose to do in the house that made it cost more. So the important thing is to not necessarily get hung up on that number, because that number is very fluid. However, to know that it's possible, to know that you can build your own home, you can buy your own home, be mortgage free, and you do have the money to do that. Just depends on where you're at.
Yeah, and it may be another scenario where you stage your way up. And so, they used to have this thing called starter homes, which were smaller, less expensive, and people would buy those because, it was early on in your life and you didn't have the income to work your way up. So you lived in that for a while, built some equity, and then you sold and traded up. Maybe you decided to have a family, needed more space, whatever. But the bottom line is you can start out in a lot smaller space. It's what you're willing to do. It's what you're willing to choose, because I think that's an operative word. If you don't choose it, then you're not going to be happy with it. I'm going to say that you may have not chosen where you're at right now, and I think you should choose it whether you like it or not. You need to choose, this is where I'm at, because once you do that, you accept that, then now you can change that whenever you decide to. And so if you're living in an apartment, if you're living in a rental home, if you've got a home that you bought that you're tired of fighting to build, pay the mortgage and keep up with the house. I mean, there's a lot of scenarios, or maybe you're not even living on your own right now, but you'd like to. There's so many things you can do to get out of that cost of living so that you can start redirecting those funds. So I've seen people who have moved into small RVs, campers, whatever, and or moved back into their parents' house, or moved in with somebody else and split the cost of housing down so that they don't have to spend as much.
All of those things over the years.
Oh yeah, at some point or another, lived in a car or whatever.
We did, didn't we?
Yeah. So there's a lot of ways to do it. And if you want to start out in a tiny home, if that's what you want to start with, and again, that's kind of subjective as far as how big that is. You can start out living in a van. You can start out in your car. I mean, if you go on the internet and start looking up this stuff, there's a lot of people that are doing a lot of alternative things, and I'm using that because I'm not going to use the word radical or crazy or outrageous or extreme or any of these other adjectives describing this, because I don't think that's unreasonable. I think what's reasonable is what works for you, not what other people think or what you think the normal thing is to do, because people are struggling with the American dream. They have been for years. The whole go to school and get a job and have a house and raise a family and have all the
student loans that are massively in debt.
Have all the accoutrements that everybody believes is the American dream, I think is baloney, and a lot of people are struggling with it. And so then we get all this division because we think that these people that are making more money than us, that are getting farther in life materially, which is what we're measuring all this by. This is what gets us in trouble, is materialism and having to own all the things that you think this rich guy or think the guy that's rich has and you don't. So you got the haves and the have-nots. I mean, we can go on about this all day, but the bottom line is, decide what it is you would like to have in life and figure out what it is that you need to do to get there. And it may be that you need to think a little out of the box and have a little bit different type of thinking in order to create that result. And it wouldn't be outrageous to do so. It would just be creative to do so. And so if you're willing to live a little differently for a period of time in order to mass up the income, the cash, to stay out of debt, and create this living dwelling place for yourself or your family, then I think you've probably got the income coming in. You just need to redirect those funds, and that's really what the whole free tiny houses is.
And I think that you should be willing to consider, that there's that saying, do what others aren't willing to do so that you can then do what others can't do. And that's actually what Kevin and I have done. Most people in our age group, they don't get up every morning without an alarm clock. We do. We have for years. We get to get up and go, okay, what do we want to do today? What do we want to do? We want to go fishing? Do we want to go on a Harley ride? Do we want to put trim up in the house? Like, what do we want to do today? And have that freedom. And most people our age can't do that because they have to get up and go to work because their time is sold for the next 20 years still. And we're, 50-ish. And so, they've sold their time for the next, until they're 70 years old.
Right.
And so be willing to do something. For instance, Kevin and I, we don't have the latest stuff. Our TVs are 8 years old. We have a big, huge 55-inch flat screen TV that we're about to put up in our new house. It's not like we're hurting here, people, but we don't have the HD 3D, I don't even know what they're even called anymore, but the really super thin, brand new, $2,000 55-inch TV either. We also have we're about 6 generations behind on iPhones. Now, we do have iPhones. Again, we're not, we're not without here. Otherwise, we'd probably still have flip phones because it's not that important to us. But we're not 4 or 5 generations up on phones that, what are they now, $700 for the iPhone 7S or whatever that thing is? Right. Well, I could go replace mine right now for $90 on Craigslist. Okay, so we don't do those things and keep up with the Joneses, if you will, because that's not what's important to us. What's important to us is to have our time freedom and to have a stress-free life, which we have. And
it's what's sensible to us. It's
very sensible to us, and because of it, I feel we have better health. We don't have bad health. We're not on any medications. Neither one of us have diabetes or high blood pressure or any of that. In fact, I've been to a doctor once in 15 years when I broke my leg 3 years ago. I don't know when you've been to a doctor last, years, because we just don't have stress in our life, and that's big to us.
We're outdoors a lot. We're walking. We walk 5-6 miles a day.
Our grandchildren all the time, and our kids. And I think that's also, for us, that's a really important thing. I don't know what that is for you, but I think the important question here is to ask yourself, and have you asked yourself, what does your perfect life look like? What would you like your daily life to be? How do you measure yourself in success? To me, I know I'm successful when I don't wake up to an alarm clock. I don't wear a watch. This is a Fitbit, so I can track my steps and my exercise, not for time. I know I'm successful when I can pick up anytime I want and go see my grandkids, things like that. Do you have a list like that? Do you know where you want to be at in your life, and have you really gotten present with that? Because I'm venturing to say there's probably several of you watching this video that aren't happy with your life, are not happy with where you're at, and you haven't been honest with yourself and really taken a look at that and realize that if you're not happy with where you're at, you can change that. And you're the only one that can change that. Nobody's holding you there. And I don't care if you're barely making it paycheck to paycheck right now and you've got a $130,000 mortgage and you're trying to figure out how to make ends meet every week. You can change that. Now, again, it might take some thinking outside the box and doing some other more sensible things for you that the mainstream, it might call extreme or radical, but we don't. What we call it is sensible, and I think that's a really great thought for you to think about.
So again, to recap, free tiny houses for everyone simply is about redirecting the income and the funding you've already got going out towards lifestyle and changing it and putting it into a fund or toward a shelter system for yourself that would make it possible for you to own your own home or not have to pay rent anymore, mortgage payments, this type of thing, and get your cost of living down. Our cost of living is very small. It's shrinking. It's going to continue to get down to where our cost of living will be less than $1,000 a month relatively shortly, and so that allows us a lot of autonomy. We have choice. We have
and that's our cost of living with living in a brand new house on the beach.
Yeah, because this is brand new. We haven't even finished it yet. We're just getting down to the final finishing details right now. So we've been living in an RV for the last 2 years. We moved out of a 3,000 square foot house into a 300 square foot dwelling, and now we're going to move up into about double that size, but still, in a lot of people's minds, very small housing situation. But you know what, this is what's sensible and makes sense to us. We like to travel, we like to go out of the country and do and see things, and so we don't want to have a whole bunch of house to deal with when we're gone or when we come back to catch up with the lawn and the cleaning and maintaining of this place.
And even if we were here, I don't want to make it sound like we're building this tiny house and don't need this space because we're gone so much. Even here, if we were here full time, I'd still feel this is the sensible thing for us. It's more than comfortable for two of us.
Right, and so again, that's subjective to what you believe is comfortable, and again, part of your strategy might be that you shrink your living situation down a lot to begin with, and then restructure your finances and create the income stream to direct toward a larger living situation down the line, and then work your way there. Maybe you live in a small structure that gets you out of the weather and provides the ability for you to sleep, cook, and bathe, and that's it. And that gives you, you can do that very inexpensively in a very small space, and then that allows you to save money up and start putting it towards building a larger living space that would be more sensible for you. And so I believe those funds are available to you if you're willing to redirect them, if you're willing to change and choose to do something different, alternative to what you're doing right now, so that you can take that funding that you're already creating and just use it in a way to come out with that home that doesn't cost anything or creates a much smaller cost of living. And if you can achieve that, you're going to have eliminated something that typically costs about $500,000 in a lifetime per person in the U.S. Average, which means that half the people are spending less, the other half are spending more. to live, and so get rid of it, get it out of your hair, and look at what the possibilities would be to have a different life and a different cost of living. Same thing with transportation, second largest thing that we spend money on. If you can change that scenario and have a less expensive transportation situation for yourself, again, subjective, some people might be willing to walk, ride a skateboard, take a bus. Others might say bicycle, might be just a, you know, what we call a beater with a heater, or a $500,000 car, whatever. But that gives you that ability to redirect those funds that you spend on transportation into that, you know, maybe that housing scenario that you're trying to get to, and create a whole new possibility for yourself. So,
you know, I venture to guess that there's probably several people, Kevin, watching this video that think we're absolutely off our rockers.
Sure.
Maybe some of you think, well, that's cool, guys, that's exactly what I'm doing or I've done. I'd kind of like to I want to invite comments.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you
tell us what you think?
What do you think of what we're doing? Why do you think what we're doing is great? Why do you think what we've been talking about here on the video doesn't work for you? Like, tell us different things that you've done to lower your cost of living, or if you're living tiny right now or small, how did you get there from where you started out? Like, we'd really love to hear about that.
Tell us about it. So, looking forward to your comments, whatever they are. And with that, I will see you
On the next video.
on the next video.